Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us for today's live session in our ST9 series, Assembly Management. My name is Diana Dietrich. I'm the marketing specialist here at Swoosh Technologies, and I will be your host for today. Just a little on Swoosh. We're an award-winning PLM solution provider and partner of Siemens PLM, and our team is dedicated in providing you the best software solutions, technical support services, and process-based training to help you optimize your design and manufacturing processes. Our commitment to changing the way designers and manufacturers learn and leverage PLM tools has been a major focus for our team for over 11 years and will continue to be our goal. Presenting today is application engineer Dylan Malik. Dylan's experience in a variety of industries spans nearly 2 decades. He's seen the growth and changes of CAD design and understands how the latest technology has really benefited many companies' processes when it comes to sheet metal fabrication, structural design, surfacing, rendering, and animation. Dylan's goal is to help your business improve productivity throughout all areas of your product lifecycle. Today, we're covering assembly relationships. The latest in ST9 allows easy review and editing for new assembly relationships, as well as working with specific components in the new Isolate View tool. You can assign unique properties to occurrences without any hesitation. Dylan's going to go over assembly management and also touch on variable table enhancements, occurrence property enhancements, and patterning during our session today. If you have any questions, please feel free to add these into the questions box located in your GoToWebinar panel. Dylan will have your questions answered during the Q&A portion taking place right after the presentation. All right, Dylan, take it away.
All right, thank you, Diana. Let me switch over to Solid Edge here, and let's take a look at the relationships first. I got a couple simple examples here. Let's just start with the real simple one. All right, so the Assembly Relationship Manager is basically a culmination of all the different types of relationships that you apply to your part. In our typical common workflow, you have one part that's grounded and you have the other part that has all the relationships. And usually stores them down here in the Pathfinder where you have access to them to make offsets and floating and different types of relationship types. And you can flip down here. So, you know, if you do need to change a relationship type, if it was a mate, you want alignment. But once you have it fully constrained, there are some limitations of what you can do. So if I needed to change that one and that one at the same time on the side, you can't pick multiple relationships at the same time. So that's kind of a drawback. But excuse me, now that we have the Assembly Relationship Manager, this gives you a nice table of all the different types of relationships you have. And again, you can filter for all the different types you want. You can actually go through and actually pick multiple ones that you want. So again, I wanted to change that one, and I'm just using Control key and grab that one and just save. And it'll basically just reorient your relationships at one time. There's other things you can do to them as well. So you can hide, show, delete, suppress. So I'm going to open up a little more complicated one. This one has a few more relationships on it. There we go. So these are just fortunately labeled, or the ones I want. What you can do as you place them, you can always change the names of relationships. So instead of just a random variable name, it'll actually give it something that's useful. And that'll actually tie over to the variable table that I'm about to show you, because that's where the storage of all the relationship dimensions are stored. So I'm just going to go through just using Windows type key, using Shift to grab all those at one time, and then just using Control to grab the rest. And just right click again. Here's the suppress options and that type of thing. Flip. And so there's your actual pattern feature, or not pattern, but changed relationship type feature. So that's really all Relationship Manager does. It gives you a nice look of how all the parts are stacked and dependent upon each other. That's really all there is to that. Let me get out of these. And again, now it's turning over into our variable table. So we're actually going to talk about variable table and the new occurrence properties that are available in Solid Edge. All right, so what they've done in the new version of Solid Edge through the variable table, open up the variable. So again, there's variables in parts, and there's variables in the assembly. The assembly is, again, all the different offsets and things like that. And or if you want to turn on different things, right now I have it filtered for just dimensions. And if I want to say maybe physical properties, so I can add the mass, the center of gravity, that type of geometry. And these are all exposable type tabs now that I can come over and use as an exposed variable in my draft. I can use it in my bill of material. I can actually use it in my title block. I can use it through a multitude of links. All right, so I come over here if I want to give it a note. Obviously, I can do that like I did on the gasket thickness. That would just be the flange offset. So if that's information you want to know, perhaps the mass of the geometry. There it goes, right mass, and I'll just expose that one. But I don't want it to be called mass. Let's just call it, I want to call it weight. And then if I want to create a note on it. So there we have the variable table. And some of the other things that you can do is the actual look of the variable table. You can change it, how it's actually, as you can see, as I click down through it, out selects things in the pathfinder and actually highlights on the screen behind you. You can actually see it grabbing different parts, so you know what you're actually looking at. There's also different filter options, so you can actually filter for ascending, descending type. You can tell it whatever type of field that you want to sort it by, which is a real nice way to get it custom to exactly how you want it to look. They've added a couple other formulas in here. They actually, in the math, they have actually added pi in there to the formula table that you can use to apply logic to your geometry, because they've added some other formula stuff to it where you can go into the variable rules and create different types of intelligent links, say a greater than, less than type of rule to your parts. All right, so that's all you have to do is expose these, give it a name, comment if you wanted to. And what I did on this one, let me turn on the PMI dimension. So maybe for this particular example, we want to know what this width is going to be. I created a family of parts here, or family, excuse me, an assembly table here, where I can actually say I don't want any gaskets, or I want a white gasket, a rubber gasket, which is, I think, the thickest, so that changes it to 136. And again, I also I have some in here for open or closed type of scenarios. So that was really easy to set up. So if you want to go ahead and bring this in the draft, and I'll show you some of the locations where those exposed variables are accessible to. Save that. All right, let me go ahead and position this. Look at that view right there. That's my front view. And I also, let me change, turn off the hidden edges. I like to show my tangent edges on now. That'll work. Top view, side view. Throw an ISO view out here. Let me shade my ISO view. I like to show that in the shaded. There we go. All right, so again, as I mentioned, you can actually use that as a property from a part list. So if I'm creating a bomb, let's go ahead and look at some of the properties here. So if I go through, you can see some of these exposed custom properties, exposed variables. So if I go down through the list, you'll find the ones that I did, the length, the height, all those kind of things in there. So those, again, are coming from your custom properties. And as I mentioned, you can also use callouts. So I come through here and actually pull the properties. So from this drop-down list from active document would be the draft I'm in, and these are just various types of property locations that you're referencing. I'll just say index reference. And you typically get the list of all our custom properties. Again, if you want to apply those to the table down here at the bill of material, or excuse me, in the title block, etc. So those are actually all where the new variable table geometry is coming from. Let's open up another assembly here, and oops, sorry. There we go. All right, so as far as occurrence properties, let's go. I'm going to use this as an example. We have a couple different assembly levels here, so let me just go through and open these up. All right, so there's a middle one, and let's go down all the way to the lower gear set here. Pardon me. All right, so as I mentioned, we have occurrence properties options as well. So to get to occurrence properties, it's a simple right click in the background. And this has been here forever, but they've added a lot more stuff to it currently. So the things I used to do with it, for example, is if I wanted to change a user-defined quantity, you could set that to a yes value and actually tell it how many bolts or nuts that are in a unit. Instead of having to put 1,000 bolts in, you just put 1,000 in a list and the bill of material will find that for you. Some of the other stuff that you used to do to it, perhaps as a reference drawing, you can make this as a reference geometry so it doesn't show in the draft. But now you can actually do that in the draft. So some of this stuff's left over, but some of the new stuff they've added is some extra addable fields, add some custom occurrence properties. I can do that. And you notice we get these little fields that pop in at the very end. So what these allow you to do, it's coming from an XML file in the Solid Edge preference folder. That allows you to go in and actually customize it to suit however you want to use it. But for this one, we have a reference ID, a BOM ID, a maintenance routine, and some options here. When you set it up, you can set these for different types of change. So this is a global field. So anything right here would actually be set to the part. So wherever you change it, it would actually just change this one part file. And I'll show that as an example here shortly. This is actually local. So this can only be changed after, you can't override it to be changed downstream. So it's only tied to the specific level that you created at. And of course, this one's actually like a drop-down routine. So we have some maintenance things you can do. We can say, you know what, we need to go weekly, add some grease. And let's give it a reference ID. We'll just call this part 100 and the BOM. We'll just say ABC. There we go. Apply those. All right, so again, these are associated to this file right now. So I'm going to say OK. Save that. Let's go ahead and close back up to the next level. All right, so let's go to the occurrence properties here. All right, and again, this was from the assembly, as a sub-assembly down here, so it's in the lower level. So let's expand that out. So here again are the properties. Let me expand that over so you'll see. Here's the information that I typed in originally. So again, this was a local, or excuse me, global setting. So again, if I wanted to change that to a 101, so what it actually did is actually overrid the part down at the previous level. Here, again, this is blank now based on the part BOM ID at that particular part level. But we can actually do other things. For example, we can actually override some of these cells. I can add an override to this guy. Then when I click it, it'll say, let's make it bi-weekly. And expand this out slightly. And let's say, let's add a specific, let's just say, let's add lithium grease to it. So, all right, apply. And OK, so let's save this and close back up to the next level. And let's look at our occurrence properties there. And again, so the top level, I have to expand this out a couple times to access all these lower geometries. And so again, these all are replicated, and I can again expose these and override these all the way down to the previous level. So they've expanded that capability. And again, these are usable fields. I can actually access these again through the bill of material and through my title block to fill out automatically based on whatever you type into your assembly. So those are some of the new things that they have done. All right. So the variables and occurrence properties. Let's close some of these up. And the last thing that we were going to discuss was the enhanced patterning. Let's open some of these examples up. All right, so again, these are actually enhancements that were done into the pattern by duplicate component, which came out, I believe, at ST8, where you can apply geometry or other parts to parts based on geometry, and you're copying and pasting in space. So now what we have here is an assembly, and we have some coordinate systems in the assembly. So what we're going to do is actually reference that. So I'm going to come over and tell it what I want to actually use as a reference, and tell it what I want to reference from. Then it's just a matter of going and picking the coordinate systems that we want to use. In this particular scenario, the coordinate systems are not picked up by the match all occurrences. So you would just have to go through and pick the coordinate systems that you want. And you notice the orientations of these are different based on the orientation of your coordinate system. All right, and just to further that, let me go ahead and turn this part on. And let's actually activate that, guys, so we can link to it. There we go. And now let's go back into our pattern. And I can, again, just select my two-step, and all I have to do is pick a part now. So I created this part, and it actually has, I wanted to test what it does. What it does is actually bases off the base coordinate system. So wherever that base coordinate system is, it's going to snap that to it. And I did create other coordinate systems to see where it would go, and it actually just links to the base coordinates, so that's all you have to work with. So if you have multiple, you don't get to select from them, but you can just come over here. Since it's based on that part coordinate system, so if I start taking this part and spinning it around and or moving it in space, it will just stay locked to its coordinate system based on just patterning that. So that's just a real fast way to get the geometry. And again, that's coming from an assembly sketch. So if I turn that sketch on, and let's just, bump that up to 5,000. And of course, the coordinate system is linked to my sketch, and of course, those are going to move with it. So that's new to ST9. Let's open up another slightly different scenario here. All right, so what we have here is kind of the same similar scenario, but you notice it's a different layout on my Pathfinder. I actually have a subassembly, and the coordinates are not at my top level. They're actually at the subassembly level. So there's actual sketch and the coordinate system in that particular subassembly. So I can kind of do the same thing here. Let's go ahead and just do the same type of selection. Grab I want to go to. And as I start picking, you notice what's going on here. It's going to maintain that same offset from the coordinate system that I chose to go from. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. I'm going to show you how I would do this one. So maybe we want to use an assembly because it can be non-reference geometry, so it doesn't show up, but we can actually use it to pattern with. So I'm going to go over here and say, let's do the same thing. But this time, let's go ahead and use that leg as my reference point. So when I start picking geometry, it's going to pop that in, again, just the same type of orientation that it did previously based on the coordinate system orientation. So that, again, we're actually getting, like I said, the access to the variable table, occurrence properties. Here we're having access to lower geometry without actually too much trouble. Real fast to get to. We don't have to include anything, turn on any links. It's just there to use. All right, let's take a look at one more scenario here. All right, this is kind of neat. So this is basically, again, kind of like the last scenario. We have subassemblies in here. Inside these subassemblies, I actually have just 2D sketches. And these 2D sketches were turned into blocks, and it's really simple to do. You just kind of window and say block, and that's a block. All right, so we're going to actually use that to create our pattern with. So again, where I want to go from. Then it's just a matter of picking another block. What's unique to this is we do have the ability to say, go ahead and find all matching occurrences of those block sketches and accept those. So you notice those are all the same, but different kind of skew. And to go one extra step, this is just a real simple thing to do with the synchronous tool. Just want to go ahead and copy one of these subassemblies, and let's just drag it out here. And let's just rotate that around. There we go. And just again, go right back into my pattern, accept it, tell it where I want to go to. Go ahead and just grab that one now. It follows along, tell it to go to all of them, accept it, and there we have. So just there's really not much faster way to get a part than oriented any orientation you want just by a couple of 2D sketch and some sub-assemblies. And that I believe is, not sure, I think I covered them all. That is it, Diana. So is it, oops, is there any questions?
So we have a few questions in our queue today, and I just wanted to let everyone know that if your question is not answered during the Q&A portion, I will make sure that these all get sent over to Dylan. So Dylan will get a hold of you by phone and by email. So please feel free to add your questions into the questions box, as many as you want. All of these questions that do get any, I guess, airtime will be asked anonymously. So your identity will be kept secret. So Dylan, the first question that we have in our queue is during the variable table section that you had. And the question is, can this automatically calculate the depth for me?
Depth, I'm assuming either depth of a part or depth of a hole. Actually, let me just open up a part here. Let me just grab this part really quick. So it does actually store. So as you place geometry, and every single dimension that solid edge places and or it places can be actually a driven type dimension. So if I just snap to that hole here, and that's all I need to go to my variable table. So that hole is actually in as a physical dimension, the 33.01. If I want to lock that, you notice it opens up some other fields here. Again, I can expose that, or I can, I don't think I actually did it, but with the variable rule editor I mentioned, you can make some rules in there. You can actually make min-max kind of geometry where you can put some rules into your thing. So, I can't use a particular tool that goes, less than 0 or can't go deeper than, whatever number you need. So you can apply some rules to those type of features. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a feature from Solid Edge or if it's an imported geometry. I can throw a dimension on it, and my variable table will pick it up. And you can link these together with formulas and do all kinds of neat stuff.
The next question that we have in our queue is also during the variable table, and the question is, does it show which relationships are positioning the part versus relationships tied to the part?
Say it one more time.
Does it show which relationships are positioning the part versus relationships tied to the part?
There's I guess that would actually be one and the same. I mean, the variable table is just, again, the exact, some of these are grayed out based on the fact that I can't change them because I have rules on them. But like the offset values and stuff like that, again, it doesn't actually show, it shows you the part. As you can see, I can pick in the Pathfinder. If I expand that out and actually pick that part, here's the actual relationships that are driving in. I can easily match the actual variable number to the one in the actual table. So if you want to change something, it's kind of good to go in there and make it something that you can actually filter for. I can actually just say, show me my variable, and it just gets rid of the list. So the things that you're going to change, go ahead as you make them, give them a name that's logical to you, and it gets put in the table. That way you can easily go back and apply formulas and link these, or just easily make changes, kind of like I did with the alternate assembly type scenario here. That's all that's coming through the variable table as well. I think that answers the question.
And then we have time for one final question, and this was during the occurrence properties. So how did you get those other tables in the occurrence property?
Oh, again, yeah, those actually come from an XML file. So this actually just links it to the defined XML file. So that would be in the Solid Edge properties. So Solid Edge is, if you load in the default, it would be C. And if you just go XML, so there's a lot of different XML files that you can actually customize. Settings.xml, that's where you can set specific tools and solid edge to be on or off. Maybe you don't want your employees to do inter-part linking, so you can turn that off. The custom occurrence properties is right here. So it gives you a little description of actually how it's done. Here's actually down here where the actual script is, but it actually gives you explanation of actually how to change it. And I guess I talked to a friend of mine who does programming. He says there's a lot you can actually do with it. So I'm kind of excited to figure out. I'm not a code guy, but I know people that are, so I'm kind of excited to find out what you can actually do with these properties.
Great. Thanks, Dylan. So guys, unfortunately we are out of time for the day, but we want to make sure that if any questions do arise from today's session, or if you'd like to learn more, that you'll be able to reach out to us. So if you have any questions about Solid Edge or about today's topic, please feel free to reach out to Dylan or me by phone or by email. Or if you're already in contact with one of our representatives here at Swish Technologies, please feel free to reach out to them as well. Either way, we're all here to help you meet your business goals and have a better production experience. Once again, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our session and hope that you can make it for the next session in our series, which is Catchbook and Solid Edge, where application engineer Sam Estrada will show us how easy it is to design as you think. He'll go through how you can capture your ideas through your tablet or smartphone and easily import and create a 3D model in Solid Edge. That'll take place on Wednesday, September 7th at 2 p.m. Central Time. So if you haven't registered yet, please be sure to do so when the replay email goes out in the next few days. So please be on the lookout for that. All right, guys, thanks so much. Thanks, Dylan. Bye.
Bye.